What's up, gorgeous? I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the Fierce Framework podcast, where we talk about becoming fierce through messy action, baby steps, and cultivating confidence. I'm your host, Mary Beth. I'm a business coach with a passion to see women breaking out of the mold society tells us we're supposed to fit into and to start living life more on our own terms. I believe the world benefits when women are living lives that we're lit up about and we're pursuing a purpose that makes us feel fulfilled. My goal with this podcast is to share inspiration, stories of other entrepreneurs just like you, and practical tools and tips to help you become fierce in your business. If that sounds good to you, you're going to love this episode. Let's get down to it. What's up, gorgeous? Welcome to another episode of the Fierce Framework. I am your host, Mary Beth, and I am excited to be talking to you today. I want to focus on something that is pretty relevant to my current experience, if you will. Basically, I'm not sure what I'm going to title this. I'm gonna probably have AI help me out with that. But I want to talk about like those seasons or those like times when you're feeling off or like low energy, you're not really feeling like yourself, and maybe you're not really sure like what's going on. Because hopefully you didn't notice, but I have been going through kind of a lengthy season like that where I'm just like, I don't really feel like doing anything. I haven't been motivated to like do anything. Um, yeah, so let's get into it because I'm sure I'm not the only one where like when you just have a season where you're like not really able to operate at the level that you expect from yourself and that you're like used to operating at. And I feel like this is really relatable because I know a lot of the people I track tend to be similar to myself. So we're like high achievers, high masking, eldest daughters, overachieving, all that good stuff. And so when you're used to like go, 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 and you're used to overperforming, and then all of a sudden, like you can't, or like you really don't want to, like you have no interest in like achieving. First of all, I should probably caveat of like realizing as I'm describing this, like that sounds like depression. If it is intense, if it's concerning, like definitely see a mental health professional. For me, I don't know if it's the ADHD or the autism or like maybe it's my monthly cycle. I don't know, but it happens to me fairly regularly where I'll just be like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And that being like anything interesting. So because it's so common for me, I wanted to share with you in case you kind of go through those seasons where like it's not concerning, like it's not a mental health concern, but it's like just a normal like energy fluctuation. And it took me a long time to kind of figure out how to, well, A, to like accept that this is okay, and then B, to kind of figure out how to navigate that and those kind of seasons, which I'm still working on, but I'm going to share what I feel like has worked for me so far and kind of like what my approach is to see if there's anything that you're able to glean from it. So, sometimes, like, just to describe it, if this doesn't immediately resonate with you, what I'm talking about is like you're going along your business, right? You're doing all the things, you're excited about what you do. You're doing the things, right? So whether that is being active on social media or showing up to networking events or reaching out to people that you can help and like sharing your offer with them or being consistent with like your email newsletter or your podcast or whatever it is, and then kind of out of the blue for like no reason. That's the big, because if there's a reason, obviously, and we'll talk about this again later, but you're a human, not a machine. So if something happens that throws you off your game, like hold space for that. That's part of why, what's one of the huge benefits of us having our own businesses and doing our own things is so that we're able to ebb and flow as life naturally does. So if something happens that like knocks you off your game and you need to step back, like yes, that's why we work for ourselves, not a corporation that doesn't care about us. But for me, it tends to happen with no real trigger from what I can tell. And I'll just randomly be like, I'll be going along like everything's fine. I'm a productive person, like I expect myself to be. And then I'll randomly just be like, I'm not really interested in productivity. I'm not really interested in like, or a big thing too is like, I don't really feel like I have anything to say. And those tend to go hand in hand. So it might be a like chicken before the egg type thing. I might like get demotivated by that feeling of like lack of purpose and not feeling like I have something important or like helpful to share. Sorry, that's verbal processing. But then it's like, so you go from like normal, productive, motivated to like all of a sudden just being like unmotivated and not really feeling like doing anything. And like where it's a struggle to like do the things that you've been doing normally for the past season, right? And then it's like, maybe you're on track with your marketing and this and that and the other. And then all of a sudden you're just like, yeah. And it just feels like pulling teeth to like try to get you to do the steps that you need to do in the business that you love, that you like are working your butt off to build. That's the kind of situation that I'm referring to here. So, first of all, you're definitely not alone because my own experience in this is what like prompted me to share. It is super common for me. And so if that's something that you deal with as well, you're definitely not alone. And there's kind of three things that I wanted to talk today about, like how I've been navigating it, because I've been in like an especially long dip or lull or whatever you want to call that. And it's been a combination of things. Like there have been some things like tied into it, and so some reasons, but then also like it kind of fell out of the blue as well. So let's talk about it. One of the things that's interesting to me, like the social media tips or like marketing advice that I like is when you don't know what to talk about, like talk about what you're going through. So implementing that as we speak, because that is what I've been going through. Fortunately, I feel like I'm coming out of it. Hence why we're recording a podcast and we're wearing makeup and we put real clothes on today because we're we're on the upswing. But so the first thing is like check in and see what's going on because there can be a variety of reasons. Like, we're very complex creatures, we have a lot going on. And so sometimes there's like no reason and it's just a fluctuation because we're humans and we fluctuate, especially as women. Like, and everything just in life in general, everything's a cycle, everything's in seasons. Like, we're not designed to like have this consistent level of productivity and energy and like just be here all the time. That's a flat line. Even life, even our heartbeat, right? It's up and down, peaks and valleys. Like, that is a normal thing. And so it's actually super weird that our society like tries to pretend that we're supposed to be like consistent at the same place all the time, because I don't think there's like anything in life that really reflects that or kind of displays that design. So I don't know where we got that idea. Probably the patriarchy. But it's what is actually normal is fluctuation. So first of all, like for me, little overthinker, anxious girly, right? My first step is to be like, am I overthinking this? Because I'm allowed to just have days where I need more rest. I'm allowed to have days where I don't feel motivated. Like, I'm allowed to have days where I'm just like, I'm not really interested in doing a bunch of things, but I'm really interested in watching the Marvel universe unfold on Disney Plus right now. Like, I'm really interested in just sitting in a park and reading this book. Like, we're allowed to do all those things. So for me, that's the first step of kind of like checking in. Like, is something going on? Or is this just let myself kind of live my life and let it pass? And for me, I usually do it for the first couple days. If there's like a couple days in a row where I'm like, not really feeling motivated, not really getting things done the way I would usually expect myself to, I usually just let it go because I'm like, a couple days, that's nothing. Once it's going on for like the better part of a week or more, I'm like, okay, do I need something? And then kind of digging into like what's going on with me. Like, am I getting sad? Am I not getting enough sunlight? Am I like, and that sometimes can look like just checking in with myself, like being still and like thinking it through, like what's going on with me. Is something missing, or is this like a just a normal fluctuation, which is okay? And Or it can sometimes it's like journaling it out or even like verbal processing with a friend. Like, yeah, I've been feeling kind of off recently. And then you just kind of go on and like talk it out. Um, yeah, I don't really have like a solid strategy or like a checklist. It's just usually depending on kind of what you need and if you feel like you're making progress anywhere. Sometimes just like thinking things through, my little ADHD or brain, I get distracted and then I forget to like finish thinking it through. So I don't always get to the end of the road there, which can be part of why journaling can be helpful. It kind of keeps me on track a little bit better sometimes. But then other times it's like you don't want to take the time to like write everything out. So truly, I don't have like a prescription. Those are the things that I tend to try. And it ties into kind of the second point I want to talk about, where it's like just be gentle with yourself. So you are allowed to fluctuate, and you're not a productivity machine. Like you're not a robot, you're a human, and you're allowed to fluctuate. You're allowed to need different things. And so, like, being gentle and like I was saying in the first point, checking in with yourself instead of like berating yourself for not doing better. Um, that's been a huge mindset shift for me. It's like I'm not some like broken printer where you're gonna kick it and like do better. No. Uh I am loving this journey of no longer identifying as like a robot or a machine that's like something broken that needs to be fixed. And instead I identify as like a complicated houseplant, you know? Maybe I need more nurturing. Maybe I need more care. Be gentle with me. Be gentle with yourself. Okay. So your productivity is not an expectation where when you're not productive, you need to fix it so you can be productive. Because I believe we are designed with purpose, but I don't think we're designed to be productive in the way that like we tend to talk about productivity. Okay. So there is nothing wrong with not being productive all the time because again, we've been talking about rest. You're allowed to do that. Okay. So, but if something is happening where you're like, you're feeling off, right? And you're like, I'm just not, I want to be productive and I'm not, like, is something going on? I want to encourage you to like try to be gentle with yourself and curious, like, hey, do I need something? And how can I give that to myself? Again, like, do I need more sunlight, right? Do I need more water? Do I need more nutrients? See, we're houseplants. Okay. Do I need time outside? Do I need to move my body? Like, and one of the hardest parts for me is experiment. I like for the longest time had it in my head of like, I need a silver bullet and I need a fix of like, I need to figure out what the problem is so I can fix the problem so I can get back to my normal life so I can be productive, right? I want to fix it and like get back to life as usual. Um, but it's not for me at least. It's more often than not like one solid, easy fix. There's not a silver bullet. Usually it's a combination of things, or it's a little bit more intuitive than just like, you need to tighten this bolt, right? It's maybe one of the this is so embarrassing. And I think it's the autism. One of the things that's been hard for me is like having fun, learning how to play. Why am I bad at that? It's really embarrassing, but hey, not good at having fun. I'm good at being fun. Not great at playing. And I think a lot of that is that's a whole separate conversation. But I think a lot of it is like being worried about being cringe and being worried about being perceived. It makes it harder to just kind of like enjoy yourself and be in the moment. So, for example, like if you need more play, but you haven't practiced that a lot and maybe you're not super good at it, um, that can be a little bit more of a nuanced, complex answer than like some quick fix, right? Or even drinking more water. You know, like you can drink water, you can hydrate, you can fix that. But if you need more whimsy, if you need more beauty in your life, like, okay, you want to check in and see like what am I needing? What am I missing? And then how can I give myself that? Do I need to spend more time in nature? Do I need to get by water? Do I need to read a novel instead of a self-help book? Um, do I need to cozy up with a bowl of popcorn and maybe watch a Marvel movie? Like, or maybe it's just a fun night with a couple girlfriends or a conversation with a friend, So the point is that it can be a combination of things. It can be a nuanced thing that you're needing, or a few nuanced things. Like it's not always a quick fix. And then even then, right? This isn't the best example, but like let's go with it. Even if you know what you need, sometimes filling that need can be take a little bit of like trial and error or experimentation or coming at it from a couple different angles. Because like if you're dehydrated, right, you might need water. I live in Colorado. It's a big thing. It's a real thing. So you might need water. But if you're dehydrated and you have depleted your electrolytes, then you don't just need water, right? You also need those electrolytes to help your body absorb the water. So you can have the same problem of dehydration, but depending on what is causing that and what coinciding things there are, circumstances, you might need additional things to fix the problem. And I'm using air quotes because you're not a problem to be fixed. You're a complicated houseplant. Okay. Hey, so on this podcast, we're always talking about how to make progress towards your goals and reach your dreams. But what if you're stuck or you're not sure where to go next or you need some more support, right? Well, I am so excited to let you know that I have a couple of openings available for a free business strategy session. I know it's a mouthful, but what it is essentially a free coaching session with me. It's really an opportunity to get to know more about you and your business and where you might be stuck or needing some inspiration or a different perspective or some new insight or someone to bounce some ideas off of. And it gives us a chance to work together with no obligation from you, right? So you get that free session and then we both have a chance to see like, does this feel like a good fit? Do we feel like we could benefit from continuing this type of relationship? And then of course, if we feel like it's right and we want to keep working together, I can send you a link for future coaching. But that first session is free for potential new clients. So if you've worked with me before, I'm sorry. I love you. It's not for you. We already did that. I can't wait to see you again. But potential new client doesn't mean that you have to buy anything. It's just someone who hasn't been my client before. So if you feel like you could benefit from an hour talking strategy, getting new perspectives, getting you unstuck and back to business, back to making money and on track to hit your goals, I'll include the link in the description so you can go ahead and get signed up for your free business strategy session so we can get you unstuck, inspired, and back to hitting those goals. All right, let's jump back into the episode. This is one of my favorites. So, the last point I want to talk about is planning ahead to try to make your life easier. So, we're not going to talk about how long it took me to realize that this is a normal part of my life where my energy fluctuates. And sometimes I just have days or weeks where I'm just like, not super motivated, not super productive, not getting a lot done. Well, what I'm working on, instead of that being a surprise every time where I get blindsided and I'm elbows deep in 34 different projects, and then I'm have all these things piled up that I'm supposed to be doing because I'm in the middle of it. And then halfway through, I'm blindsided by the fact that I don't want to work on any of this stuff. And I don't care about any of these things anymore. And all of these projects bore me. And I don't want to do any of this. So that used to like completely catch me by surprise periodically. And so I am learning that this is a normal part of my life and that this is just going to happen. And that I just have seasons where all of a sudden it feels like I'm just not super motivated and I'm not super into working on what I've been working on. And that's okay because I'm a human being or a houseplant, not a machine, not a robot. Okay. But what I'm starting to try to figure out is like, how can I work with myself? Like, now that I know this about myself, how can I make my life easier? How can I work with myself instead of just fighting against myself or being convinced that there's something wrong with me and I'm just broken and I might as well not even try, right? So it's like, okay, if I know I'm going to be like this and I know I'm going to have these seasons, how can I navigate that in a way that works for me? How can I like support myself and nourish myself through these seasons instead of berating myself and like hating the fact that I'm not consistent and not operating at the same exact level all the time? So a couple things that help, which girl, I'm getting so good at this. Okay, I do so much less than I used to do. And it makes it so much easier, actually. But one of the top things is like, how can you make your life easier? Okay. So when I'm getting in these like seasons of lower energy and just not feeling super motivated, then yeah, those are the times when I'm going to like warm up chicken tenders for dinner. Okay. I'm not chopping anything. I'm not cooking anything. I'm not washing any pots and pans. We're just gonna frozen dinner it or, grab Chipotle or takeout, like whatever it is, and just letting it be easy wherever you can. These are the times when I'm like, the housework, we let it go. Okay, the house just gets dirtier. The laundry piles up because I'm just not doing everything. Okay. And so you allow yourself to just like be less productive and let a couple things go undone for a little bit longer. Like legit, that's what I do. And again with like anything I can do, yeah, like with the food stuff, like prepped meals, um, saying no to things. I'm not doing that. Thank you for the thought. Thank you for the invitation. I will not be making it. I just do less. Like I go out less. I expend less energy. Or if you have the energy to like go to an event but not go shopping, then it's like I would love to come and be there for the get together. However, I don't have capacity to bring anything. So these seasons are when I'm doing those types of things. When I'm reposting content, right? And I'll be like, let me just find my most popular podcast or find my favorite email and I'm gonna from like last year and I'm just gonna send that out again because you know what? Half of you didn't read it. So here we go. Um, those are the times when I'll like lean on that and try to repurpose and reuse what is already available so that I'm not starting from scratch and being required to create something when I have that like low energy. Because for me, and I think for a lot of us, but for me, the energy and creativity, like I need energy to be creative. It requires energy for me to be creative. Um, so I don't think that's true for everyone. I think some people get energy from being creative, but for me, they like coincide. So I have a hard time creating and um like putting things out into the world when I'm in such a low energy space. And so that's when I will focus on like upcycling, recycling, etc. So making life easier. Another way to do that, what you can do ahead of time, is working ahead instead of starting new things. And as an ADHDer, that's hard. That's hard. And I learned this the hard way because I would find myself when I get that energy, because my energy spikes too. Like, right, it's not just low and then like one solid line, like it's always up and down. So when I have more energy and I'm feeling more creative and I'm like really excited about working on things and I'm feeling motivated and productive and I want to like go, 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 I found that I tend to create something new or branch out on a new journey, or I want to start something new because it's shiny and it's exciting and you want to get into it. And so I'm like launching into something new. And then the low energy comes in. But then at that point, I have like my main thing, right? And then like six different sprouts of new things that I like half-assed. And then when the energy goes low, I'm like, oh my God, now I have 84 things that I started and I'm not able to maintain any of them. And I do want to caveat and say, like, I think that's okay if it's working for you. If you're in an experimental stage and you want to try things and you're okay with like letting them go, great. I think that's one of the things that, like, as ADHDers, we've been shamed out of. So I think a lot of us overcompensate and we're afraid to try new things. So I do want to caveat and say you're allowed to try new things and you don't have to finish everything you start. However, also as an ADHDer, There are times when like I want to keep going. I want to make progress in one area. Like this podcast, I don't want to start 84 different podcasts and do one episode on each one. I want to have my podcast. I want it to have longevity. I want to be consistent. So instead of creating a new podcast or maybe creating a blog instead, when I have that extra energy, I will try to kind of focus that and be like, let's record a podcast episode in advance because we know there's going to be a time in the future when I have very low energy and it's going to feel like pulling teeth to get myself to record a podcast. And so trying to kind of focus that energy when I have it and work ahead on the things that I know I want to do, like maybe creating additional social media posts for your current marketing campaign instead of creating a new course or dreaming up a new program that you could do, right? And I want to be careful with this because I don't want you to kill your creativity, and I don't want to sound like I'm telling you to not try anything new. So take this with a grain of salt, of course, and if it works for you, amazing. If it doesn't, let it go. That's fine. I'm not by any means the end all be all. Um, but yeah, so that's something that's helped me a lot is to like be able to work ahead a little bit so that I have something in the tank when I do have that low energy. Because I know that low energy is coming again eventually, because it's a normal part of life. It's not that something's wrong with me that I need to prevent. I'm working on accepting that and be like, that's a season. That's fine. So when I have this higher energy, that's when I'm going to prep so that I don't have to always reuse an old podcast episode or reuse an old email newsletter, right? I can use one that I've created a couple weeks ago or whenever I had more energy because I kind of had that in reserve to prepare for this season with the low energy. And that's part of why this actually, I thought about having this conversation with you is because I was like, this season is longer than I was expecting. And so like my preparation has kind of run out and I find myself like, oh, and a little bit of a scramble a couple of times. Like I need to get something together or else my streak of publishing a podcast episode every 2 weeks is gonna be broken. So we gotta do something. Um, so it's interesting because like you can have that preparation, you can have the things in place, and then something might happen where you're like, this is a longer season than I planned for, and we're still kind of scrambling. And that's okay because life is life and we're doing it. The third thing I kind of want to sub bullet on planning ahead is truly something where you have to plan ahead. Preparing for help is what I'm gonna kind of call this. Um, and I think that we need to prepare for help actually, and this can be kind of two ways to look at this. One is like services. Okay, so a laundry service or like a cleaning service or maybe a meal service or a car service, like depending on what your needs are, right? So when you're needing extra support, when I'm in a low energy state, that is not when I'm ready to go research the best cleaning services and what can I afford and what can they offer and when are, they going to come by and do I need to do a trial run and this. That is way overwhelming when I'm in a low energy space. So a way that I can prepare is when I have more energy, do that, lay that ground, lay that foundation, like do that legwork, do the research, find a cleaning service that I like, find a laundry service that's going to work for me, find a meal service or a go-to meal, right? For me, I'm like, who knew that chicken tenders were going to like save my life every time I had no energy to cook? Amazing. But now I know, I'm like, chicken tenders, that works for me. They're in the freezer. Okay. And so I keep them in the freezer so that I don't have to go out and buy chicken tenders when I don't have the energy to make food. Okay. And so like that prep work. And then even on kind of the a more personal side with our friendships and our circle, like the people who are in our lives, especially if we tend to be like the high achieving strong friend who never needs help, when you're in a low space, it can be really weird, like for the relationship dynamic, and kind of jarring. And then, like, if you just call somebody, like, I need help, I don't know what I need, I can't get anything done. The house is a mess. I can't, like, I just need help. And they're like, okay, you've never needed help before, ever, since I've known you, and I don't know what kind of help you need, and what do you need? And you're like, I don't know. I don't have the energy to like figure out what I need. I just need help. And then that's like, that's so hard. It's real. I'm not like shaming anybody for getting that point. Like that's real and that happens. And like some people are able to navigate it really well and it's amazing. But in order to increase our odds of that going well, I think we can start laying some groundwork of like, hey, sometimes I have like really low energy periods and I really could use, I don't know, XYZ. You know, you've mentioned that you want to support me and I'm working on accepting help. Is that something like in the future when I'm not feeling great, like, is that something I can call on you and ask for? And you gotta have that conversation before you need it of like, hey, does this work within our relationship dynamic? Is this not not impeding on any of your boundaries? Like, is this okay? Is this something I can ask you for? And then you're planting that seed and kind of setting that expectation of like, hey, I might call on you for this. And so they have that awareness and kind of like the preparation where it's like, oh, now I know that she actually isn't strong all the time and she actually does need things and that she's working on accepting help. And so this might be a way that I can show up for her in the future. Whereas before, maybe they would have never known. So that's kind of what I mean by the planning ahead in that sense when it comes to more of our like social and our support circles. So that's the story of my life. I hope you loved it. Um, yeah, I'm so grateful to announce that I am coming out. Pretty sure it's getting better. So which should mean that my social media is about to be really interesting because that is one of the things that like drops off. And I feel like I've talked about this recently, like having a bare minimum is so powerful in these seasons of needing to do less so that you have a benchmark of like what your kind of requirements from yourself are, what your non-negotiables are. And then anything else when you do have that more energy is a cherry on top. And being able to kind of separate those two things. So I'm not going to get into it too much today because I feel like I've shared about that recently. But if that is something you want me to dive deeper into, I'm happy to do that because I feel like it makes sense with this topic. But thank you so much for listening. I hope you're able to get something out of this episode. If there's anything you want to chat about, feel free to DM me or hit me up, email me, whatever. I always love to hear from you. And I will see you so soon. Until then, keep becoming fierce. Thank you so much for joining me on this past episode of the Fierce Framework, where we talk about becoming fierce through taking a messy action, baby steps, and growing your confidence. I'm your host, Mary Beth. I'm so glad you're here. I hope you got a lot out of the episode. If you're looking for a little bit more, make sure that you are subscribed to my newsletter. I drop a new email every week. I'm also on social media platforms at the Fierce Framework, and I do have some coaching spots opening up. So if that's something you're interested in, you want to connect on that, feel free to drop me a DM or check out the link that I've included in the description. I can't wait to see you next time, and until then, keep becoming fierce.